I'm Carla Reeves, and this is Differently. Whether you feel stuck in survival, navigating a change, or seeking more for your life, may this podcast be your weekly nudge to take a risk to build a life that is uniquely bold, authentic, and in alignment with your deepest values. What if you worried less about the bumps in the road and instead got equipped for the journey? Get ready to rethink what's possible. If you've ever found yourself paralyzed by fear or stifled by self-limiting beliefs, I'm raising my hand too. This conversation is for you. Today, we're diving deep with Julie DeLucca. She's a business coach dedicated to lifting up women entrepreneurs out of self-doubt and into the realm of confidence and success. Get ready for some actionable strategies. I know you like those for building confidence, creating tiny habits, and really cultivating a deeper sense of confidence that carries us through even when things aren't working out. One of my favorite takeaways in this conversation, Julie says, confidence doesn't come first. What comes first is taking the brave first action and allowing that to build momentum and confidence. We call that everyday skydiving around here. Whether you're at the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey or looking to elevate your leadership game, this episode is going to give you some tools and inspiration to move forward fearlessly. Enjoy. Hi, Julie. Welcome to Differently.
Thank you so much for having me today, Carla. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm excited to have this conversation. And today I just envisioned us in preparing for this. I envisioned us talking to the listener that is hesitating or sitting on the fence or has that dream or desire or ambition in their heart, but they're stalling, they're hesitating, because of fear, or we get paralyzed or whatever it is. So I envision us talking to that person today. And Julie's a business coach and dedicated to supporting entrepreneurs and leaders. And yeah, today we're going to have a conversation that I think is going to spark some fire around whatever that desire is in your heart that you've been hesitating on. So Julie, welcome, and tell us a little bit about you and kind of where you are in this particular stage of your life.
Yeah, thank you again for having me. I want to tell you the place where I am today is the place that I wanted to be in when I was sitting on the sidelines, hesitating, second guessing myself. I went through a corporate career for many years. I climbed the corporate ladder, and I knew that eventually I wanted to leave and do something in which I was supporting women. But I really hesitated and thought, oh, how do I do that? I don't know. What will people think? And, all the things that we tell ourselves. And finally, the decision was made for me. I was laid off, and I thought, okay, great. Now I know what I'm going to do. So I started to work with women entrepreneurs and helping them build and grow their business so that they too can get to the six figures, or really if six figures is not what they're looking for, but to create the consistent income so that they can live the life of their dreams. And I help them by teaching them tiny habits and also helping them grow their confidence in all of the different areas. But I'm also an author. I just did my TEDx last year for the first time, my first TEDx. So really excited about that. And of course I have a podcast. And that's who I am.
Yeah. So why the focus on confidence? I'm so curious. Like, did that come in the beginning, or did that come later as you realized what people bump up against?
Yeah. So this is definitely something that was very close to my heart because first of all, to frame the conversation, I'm the firstborn. I've always been told that I can do it, and I have a level of confidence. But one of the things that I started to find as I climbed that corporate ladder, the higher you get, not so many women. Also, I'm Latina, so not a lot of Hispanic in that realm. And as I got promotion after promotion, the first thing I would hear from a lot of my female friends or colleagues is, "Oh, congrats. I wish I was as confident as you are. I wish I could do what you're doing." And, the misconception is that we have that thing, right? We're born with it. We have the confidence. But the reality is that throughout my career, there were so many different times in which I doubted myself, in which I didn't feel like I had what it takes, in which I didn't know how I would do it. And the confidence was absence. But the confidence doesn't come first. What comes first is doing the action, taking the brave first step. And then that helps you to build the momentum and the evidence that you're doing it. And in turn, helps you build your confidence. So that's one of the things that I wanted to help women with, because again, I think that so many individuals kind of let their dreams go by the wayside, or they don't even acknowledge or want to explore what they want to do because they're afraid, they're not confident, and they feel like, I don't feel the confidence, so therefore I can't do it.
What do you see as the biggest challenges that people bump up against that derail their confidence?
Well, I think that the biggest challenge, sadly, for many of us is us. I think that a lot of times we come into wherever circumstance that requires us to step out in confidence, number one, with a lot of the beliefs and stories that we've told ourselves or have gained from other people saying to us. For instance, as a little girl, many times you're told, oh, little girls don't do that, or nice girls don't do that, or all these things that begin to kind of frame our perspective, and our perspective then frames our actions. I think that that's one of the first things. And then the other thing is we don't talk about the failures that we have to have in order to learn and in order to move forward. We talk a lot about, oh, look at the great things that I've done, or you can see all the highlights. But in a world where we're only seeing highlights, then we begin to compare and despair. And we think, I don't have what it takes, because we're thinking that the person that we admire, the person that has achieved what we want, has something that, we don't, or that person had it easy, that it's just perfect for them. The reality is that it's not. And we need to normalize that failure is an incredible big component of the formula. Because without failure, we wouldn't know better. We wouldn't understand how. We wouldn't have a good roadmap.
So true. All of those things I see too with my clients. And I think another big one that I see a lot is, and even in myself, is like fear of what other people are going to think, or fear of judgment, or desire to please others. And I feel like that just gets in our way so often. And, and then we live with regret. I was just talking with someone this morning who's, young adult child is kind of living in regret. Like, I wish I would have done this differently, and I wish I would have done more of that. And if this conversation can stir anything, I hope it stirs people to really let that go and focus on now and what's going forward. Because these tiny habits you talk about, I know from the work I do with clients that, and in my life, like, being an entrepreneur, I want to dispel this idea that you are confident, that because you're an entrepreneur, you're confident. That's a lie. I have to deal with it every day and remind myself of things so that I can step up and do those brave small actions to keep moving things forward. And for me, it's that thing that's bigger inside of me that I'm committed to, that has me show up in the face of feeling small or feeling ill-equipped or whatever it is. What is it for you that has you? And I'm assuming as an entrepreneur that you're still bumping up against this too.
Yeah, absolutely. As an entrepreneur, one of the things that I have to really remind myself is that being an entrepreneur is not about chasing the shiny, which we all want to do. We all want to, wow, that looks great. Or again, most entrepreneurs, they have wonderful ideas all the time. That happens to me all the time. The the challenge is when we decide to, pursue something else in the middle of doing the thing, then we will never get to finish the thing. And then we're halfway with something new. And then we start to feel like, oh, I'm not good enough. I didn't do it. I'm a failure. But that's because we don't have that roadmap that says, let's do this, stay on task, and do the boring. Many entrepreneurs want to do the shiny thing. Mm-hmm. And there is a lot of really fun, shiny things that we can do. But the reality is that your business is built on the consistency of your daily actions. Your business is built on actually doing the things that you don't feel you could do. A lot of entrepreneurs, and I guess for me, even in the very beginning, I wanted to have the shiny website. I wanted to have the little logo. Oh, I'm an entrepreneur. Why? Because those outward signs were in a way kind of validating, like, oh yes, I am for real. I'm legit. But the legitimacy of being an entrepreneur and a successful business owner is in doing the things that we want to delegate, or we don't even want to delegate because we're afraid of delegating, but we don't want to do. Like maybe sometimes that requires you to talk to a new person. Maybe it requires you to tell a person, hey, do you want to work with me in going to a sales calls? And the avoiding of those things is what keeps you from being successful. And you have to create the habits so that you're not, just, okay, what am I going to do today? But you show up on a daily basis to your business and you know what's on the agenda because that's become a habitual behavior for you. And as you're doing these habitual things, then you're gaining that evidence, like I did it, I can do it, I know how, I can do it. And then you begin to build that confidence.
Oh, it's so true. I once heard consistency is sexy. And
yeah,
it's like,
absolutely.
It feels boring, but it's really not, because over time, exactly what you're talking about, as you were talking, I'm thinking about the things, the hard things, the boring things that I had to do early on as an entrepreneur that really built the foundation for a business that I have today. And it was showing up at those, events and setting up a table and talking to 100 people. And, there were days that I did not want to go do that. It was the last thing I wanted to do. But it is that built the foundation of my business and turned it into, what it is today. I love that you talk about doing the hard things, because I think, I don't know, we get this illusion that it's all fun and inspiring. And I think that much of what I do is based on discipline and doing the hard things. And so how do you support your clients around that? Like for people listening, what are some things, some small, tiny habits that people could start doing to build that consistency and discipline inside of their business or their life? Because I think this applies to life too. It's like building a relationship that is, healthy and strong takes all of this too.
Yeah. One of the first things that I think is the one piece that a lot of people avoid, and this is a little bit of where my clients and I will start. Becoming the successful entrepreneur, or being the person that, right? Fill in the blank, whatever that may be for you, because it's different for all of us, really requires us to have a picture of the identity of that person. The habits that create that identity are also going to be driven by your values. And there's a lot of times in which I will have an entrepreneur say, wow, I want to go ahead and be a speaker, or I want to, write a book, or I want to serve 100 clients. But their values, not that there's, no judgment on the value, but they're not clear on what is important to them. And then you end up saying, I want to do this, but really you are here. And then there's no alignment. And then when you don't do the thing that you should be doing to move forward, then you are going to beat yourself up and you go down the spiral of I shoulda, woulda, coulda. understanding again, for instance, I'll give you an example for me. As I built a corporate career, and I was married before, I had a first husband, and, the marriage ended. And when I married my husband 12 years ago, one of the biggest priorities I created is spending time with him, having that non-negotiable time. So that's part of my value. Now, if I say I want to, build this great business and go all in, and that's going to require me to work X amount of hours and do all these things, and then take away from my husband, if my value is to be with him, and then I need to do the other thing, then the other thing is not going to get done. Or I'm going to not be true to my values, and then I will revert, right? So these are the things that people need to consider. What is the most important thing to you? If your most important thing is like, yes, you love your relationship, you love your kids, you want to be in the community, but the most important thing is for you to get out of debt, then that is going to drive the actions that you will take daily, weekly, monthly. And it will also begin to drive those habits that you are creating to be the person out of debt, right? So those are the things that people don't consider. And that's how we first start with my clients. So we look at what do you value? Then we talk about where you want to be. And then we talk about what is it that you need to do daily, weekly, monthly, and what are the habits? Because we say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, but we don't write it down, or we say, I want to achieve that, but we don't have a goal written down. You're not going to achieve it. You're not going to do it because it's all sort of in your head, but not with an actual roadmap. And that's what I help my clients create, is that actual roadmap. And I use a lot of my background as a successful career in corporate America to help individuals build a strategy, create the operations, the offers that make sense, and really build a business like a business, not just like a dream.
I think what I hear you saying is that confidence really comes from this sense of alignment when we're behaving in a way that honors our values and honors what we're up to. And it's very different than what we think confidence is, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
absolutely.
And confidence, and that is going to look different for each and every person. So when we go out there and we try to imitate what other successful people are doing and we fail, then we think like we're doing something wrong. But actually, it's really doing the foundation base work first to understand like, what are your values? Who are you? What are your natural rhythms? Because if we're trying to behave as somebody that just is not in our nature to be, it's not going to go well. But
100%.
Yeah. But I really do. I can see with even like looking at working with clients, how confidence really does come from that piece of like honoring those pieces within you. Mm-hmm. I remember a time when I was so focused on work and being productive and like was overworking and I guess I'm a recovering workaholic, I could say.
Some of us are.
Yeah. But I had a value of my marriage, like really growing a thriving, healthy marriage. And I really had to look at like what I was speaking. I was speaking that I want to grow this amazing marriage, but when I looked at my time, it was completely out of alignment. Yeah. And it was changing that alignment that gave me greater confidence in my marriage and in my business, because now I'm honoring all those pieces. And that's really what I heard you saying.
Absolutely, Carla. And I think this is the other piece, right? When you talked about where you were spending your time, I think that is the first clue. And for your listeners, and I do this for myself as well, as I'm kind of taking stock of what am I doing, what am I going to do, or, where do I want to be? I go back to my calendar. I go back to not only my calendar, but I actually go back to the actual things that I did, because then that's telling me what my top value is. If I love to volunteer, I love to spend time, and that's a value for me, but it's not a priority right now. And then you can see that in my calendar, right? there may be a lot of space that is not being used to volunteer to be in the community. However, if I am spending a lot of time, and this is something that I went through this year, I was spending a lot of time doing things that I've done in the past, but they're not supporting my dreams. They're not supporting what I want to be doing. And I was doing that because it's just what I've done, but it wasn't aligned with that value. And it doesn't mean that I don't want to volunteer. It just means that I don't want to volunteer at that level. And I needed to reshift and recalibrate. So your calendar will be a really great clue to knowing where you are and then creating a plan to how you're going to move forward.
How does confidence for yourself look differently today than it looked like when you started your business? Because I feel like confidence, it's not something we achieve, right? It's this ever evolving.
Yes. I'm going to say, this is going to sound, it may sound bad, but I bear with me, listeners. I was very cocky when I started my business. I mean, I've had a side business here and there throughout my life. My first entrepreneur journey was at 13. I thought I had it all together and figured out. So yes, when I left, when I finally took the leap and I was in the leap and I was like, okay, I'm launching my business. I'm doing this. Immediately I thought, I got it together. I know how. And I started to, yes, take action, which is important because it gets you in motion. But my confidence now comes from knowing that I don't know it, knowing that I can figure it out, knowing that I have the habit to carry me through even when the world knocks me down. So when I started my business was at the beginning of the pandemic. And as a lot of different things were happening, I wasn't running my business like a business, but it totally knocked my confidence. Like I thought, well, wait a minute, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe I'm not smart. Maybe I'm not cut out for this, because all of a sudden I thought I needed to be successful overnight. And it doesn't happen overnight. And that's the difference of the confidence. Yes, there is a level of confidence, but it wasn't the level of confidence, the right confidence. It was just assuming, right? And I think that at times we think, well, of course I've done that before. I was successful in this area. I can be successful in this area. Take, for instance, someone who is a weightlifter or likes to run marathons, right? They're going to be confident that they are a person that has physical fitness. However, if that person is going to go to a yoga class for the first time ever, you may be in really great shape, but you might not be a really good person in that first yoga class because it's new to you. So your level of confidence shifts as you practice more of the thing that you're doing. Yes, it will get you started to have that confidence from where you brought it before, but you need to know that you also need to fail and gain the skill in the new thing that you're doing.
I think that's so important. I think the failure piece is a really big piece. Like, why are we so afraid of that? And what is the gift inside of that? Because I know you speak a lot about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I look back at, going back to elementary school, middle school, high school, failure for all of us, right? No, you couldn't fail a class and in my family, my God, if you got anything lower than a B, it wasn't good, right? We define a letter grade, right? As you're good or you're bad or you're doing it or not doing it. But really, for instance, if you get anything lower than a B, what that's really actually giving you is enough data to know, okay, you're not mastering the subject. Where is it that you need to shift? What are the things that you need to understand? But then we make these, pass or fail. It's not a pass or fail. It's a practice. And we don't acknowledge that we need to practice. We don't acknowledge that we're never going to just start something and be proficient 100%. Although letter grades will say, oh, you're proficient. Not really. Not necessarily. And I think that this is the place where, at least for me, that thought that I need to do it, I need to win, I need to be the top, I need to have that high achieving mode is something that sabotaged me for a very long time, because I would avoid failure in my career. If things weren't going well, I didn't ask for help. God forbid I would tell someone that I failed or I didn't do something. I didn't want people to find out, because I felt that failure defined me as a negative. Whereas it's actually being able to fail, acknowledge that you didn't do it right, figuring out how can you shift? What can I do better? Who do I need to help me? It's actually a better way to go. And I think that as women, we think that we have to have it together, but we don't.
So two things. One, I just heard this story last week on a podcast about, I can't remember what it's called, but it was like an experiment they did in Arizona or Nevada where they were trying to grow trees that they could maybe, do, on Mars or some other planet someday, right? But what they did is they grew these trees and they got big enough and then they just fell over and they realized that there wasn't any wind. They didn't have wind. And the wind is what allowed the trees to grow strong and grow their roots and be able to sustain. And it's the same for us, right?
Absolutely.
It's like, even as a parent, the last couple of weeks, it's like as a parent, we naturally want to jump in and sort of solve the problem, remove the challenge. And that's what's growing our children. That's what's building character and resiliency. And it's the same for us. And we forget that. Yeah. It's important.
Absolutely. I have a rule. In about a month ago, I was visiting family, and I was there with 4 of my female young nieces. They're ranging in age between 8 and 13. And the whole family was kind of up in arms because we were playing a game. And I think we were playing Uno. And guess what? I wasn't letting them win. And my family at first is like, but
what are you doing?
Let them win. You're the adult. Why are you so competitive? And yes, there's a level of competitive. But at the same time, the reason I wasn't giving them an inch is because I want them to figure out how to win at that game without having that help from me. And it actually made them think, okay, wait a minute, and start to kind of strategize and kind of like, well, if she does this and pay attention to cues, and all of that is incredibly important. Sometimes when we just get the easy win, when the big thing comes outside of that realm and we're being knocked down by the wind, we're going to stay on the ground because we never knew how to, okay, I lost. Let me go back. And no shame in the loss. It's really just the gain of the experience that is going to help you. And by the way, at the end of 3 days playing with my nieces, I lost a lot.
That's awesome.
And now here's the thing. My nephew, my older nephew, he came and he played with us. And as soon as he lost the first game, he was out. He's like, okay, forget it. I don't want to play with the girls anymore. Why? Because he's not used to losing. He's used to always getting it. And that's one of the, again, mentalities that we need to change. A loss is not defining you negatively. It's actually strengthening you and teaching you how not to do it and how you can do it differently the next time.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to mean all the things we make it mean, right?
Yeah, we make it mean a lot of things.
Yeah, we make it mean a lot of things. Okay, so I want to go back to something you said, when you were defining the confidence in your past and the confidence now, you spoke to knowing you're going to be okay no matter what, knowing you're going to be okay if everything falls apart. How did you develop your knowing? Because I feel like that is true confidence. And, that can come from a lot of different places.
Yeah. I think, the first time that I started to realize that I was going to be okay is looking back. I think that a lot of times we don't want to look back, or we think I haven't changed, or I'm still the same person. We're not. The experiences have taught us. When I went through my first divorce, for instance, I feared leaving the marriage. for so many different reasons. Oh, well, what if I'm a failure? What will people think? I mean, like you name it, right? Everything. And even though I didn't know the marriage was working, and again, the universe just kind of said, guess what? You got to go. And when the marriage fell apart, I ended up on my feet. I was okay. And reminding myself, was it easy? No. Was it worth it? Of course. I'm in a wonderful marriage now. I have a husband that adores me. We have a home that we love. But I had to go through that to get here. The other place where I think that has been really instrumental in my life to teach me that I will land on my feet, even in the hardest time, is, for instance, when my dad was dying and I sat in hospice with him, I didn't know. I'd never helped someone transition. My dad was one of the most important people in my life, and I didn't know how I was going to survive without being daddy's girl and having the opportunity to get on the phone and call him and ask him, how do I do this? What do you think? But I figured it out, and it wasn't easy. And it's not like, oh, I'm over my dad dying. No, it's still, that emptiness is there, but I knew I needed to put one foot in front of the other, to show up, to keep redefining what does this new thing look like, and seeing, okay, I've gone through hard things before. I will figure it out. And in the midst of uncertainty, in the midst of not knowing, telling myself, I don't know how to do this yet, or I am learning to, or I will figure it out, have been the things that really carry me. And those are the things that I had to learn. It's not something that comes in my user manual, right? Like, we don't figure that out until we actually go through it. But we have to look, what is it that happened? How did I do that? Because then if you did it in one place, you can do it in another.
I love that. Going back and taking inventory. We're so good about taking inventory of like what we haven't done and what we didn't do, but go back and take inventory of what you have done and what you did do, because it's so powerful.
100%. I have to just say an example because it happened last night. My husband opens the refrigerator and he's like, oh my God, we have nothing. And we have nothing to eat. I'm going to order. I'm like, no, we have food. And I went into the pantry and I'm like, okay, what is here? And then what can I do with this? And by the way, it was a fantastic meal. And not just because I cooked it, because we cooked it together, but it's how we are looking at things. A lot of times we already have what we need for what we're doing, but we just look like from the outside, like, oh, I don't have the things, right? But there are things in there that you can do. And I think that that's what I encourage the listeners is take stock and don't be afraid to say, oh, just because maybe this is my gift and it's not like that person doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to use your gift for what you need to do.
That, it's called differently, rethink what's possible. Like, we like to rethink what's possible. So I love that you brought that up, because perspective is everything. And there's so many different angles that we can be looking from at any given time. And I think that's something I've been really noticing in my business. Like, as God calls me to step into a bigger vision for my business, I notice that, like, everything's already here. Like, if I look through the lens of the people and resources that are already here or they're going to show up, they do, and they are in ways that I never imagined. And so it is changing that lens of your thinking that can show you what's already here and how you are already equipped. I love that.
No, for sure.
So as we wrap up, what are some, just to inspire people thinking about, what are some of those tiny habits? What are some of your, I'd love to hear, like, what are some of your tiny habits that really help you stay in that frame of mind that keeps you moving forward?
Yeah. So I will give you my 3 habits that may not seem like a very big deal to some, but really are keystone for me. Mm-hmm. Number 1, my first habit every morning is, as soon as my feet hit the ground, and by the way, this morning I was like, oh, okay, it's Friday. What am I doing? And it was hard to get up because I had a hard time falling asleep. But when my feet hit the ground, and this is the way a habit is created. You have to have an anchor moment then you do the behavior. And then the most important part of creating a habit is you celebrate that you did the behavior. And when I mean celebrating is not necessarily throwing a party right then and there, but is acknowledging and saying, good job, Julie, or yay, I did it. So the first thing that I do is I put my feet on the ground, my anchor moment. Then my behavior is, it's going to be a great day. I tell myself it's going to be a great day. And then I'm like, oh, yay me. I told myself it's going to be a great day. Why? Because that puts me in a positive mindset to begin with. Does it mean that I don't have problems? Of course I do. We all do. Are things that worry me? Of course. But if I remind myself first thing in the morning is going to be a great day, it begins to build that momentum. Now, when I come down the stairs, because as I'm coming down the stairs, the second thing I need to do right away is I have 3 little dogs and they need to go outside. One of them is very impatient too. So I come to the kitchen and I let them out through the back door. And that is, again, my anchor moment. What I do second is I fill my water bottle, my water jug, because I am a girl that drinks water. Right? It keeps me alert. It helps me hydrate. So many different reasons why. And then when I fill my water bottle, that's all I'm going for is filling it up. I'm not going to drink the gallon. I'm not going to drink it right then and there, chug away. I sometimes do, sometimes don't, but I give myself credit for good job, Julie. You're a girl who drinks water, right? And again, I'm giving myself that props. Now, throughout the day, this comes in here into the office with me and I drink it. And then, of course, every time that I know that I go to the bathroom, I bring my water, I live it out. And after the bathroom, I go and I fill it out again because that going to the bathroom is my other anchor moment for refilling it, right? So now I'm building momentum. I'm already successful with 2 big things in my life. So that confidence, I can come and start working and I feel a little more confident. Now, my third habit that gets me started is when I sit at my desk, I don't go to my email. I don't, start scrolling social media. But what I do is I have a little, it's a Chrome extension. It's called Momentum. And it's like a little thing that goes on your desk. And then I open my calendar and I look at what my day is going to look like. Just very simple. Sitting at my desk, opening my calendar, and then understand, okay, what is going on? How do I need to do? And then I write down my one most important thing for the day. If anything and everything happens, this is the one thing that I need to walk away from the office and have accomplished. And again, it sets me up for success. And I already know, I'm prepared. Okay, I know. Let's see what else is going to start. And it gets you moving in that momentum. So these 3 habits, a lot of people don't think that it has anything to do with my business or it's moving my business forward, but it is. Because if I'm tired, because I'm dehydrated, or because I started my day already and focusing on the negative, then it's very difficult to set your mind in a way that you're focused on what you need to do for the day. And that's when we start to, if we're feeling bad, we start to buffer our behavior, right? Oh, I'm going to go scroll in social media so that I can forget what I'm stressed about. Or you know what? Oh my God, I'm not drinking water already. I'm not a healthy person. I might as well, have the pizza or whatever it is. And then when we do the things that we don't want to do, then we're like, oh, might as well, keep going because I already messed up. So start your day already setting yourself up for success, even with the little things. And again, you don't have to be big. You don't have to make a huge behavior change. You can do that one small thing that gets you started. And then once you get started, you can keep going and you can grow, because habits are like a plant. If you plant the seed and it's a tiny seed, it can grow, giving the right environment. And that's what I encourage people to do.
So beautiful. I love that. As you were describing them, I'm like, all these habits are like, setting you up. And then you said, these set me up for success, but that's really what it is. Because it's not unusual to forget overnight and wake up groggy and thinking like, oh my God, who am I and what am I doing again? Like I forget all the time. And it's those small habits that prop me up and remind me who I am and what I'm up to, and to start that day again. And you can turn that day around really quickly with just those. I mean, I can totally see that. in just those small habits. That is so beautiful. Okay, Julie, tell everybody where they can find you and what you're up to and learn more about what you're doing. And you have a podcast, and so make sure you talk
so my
about that
podcast is Casa de Confidence, and is the home of confidence where you can come and find all of the different tips and tricks and stories of people who have gone confidently in the direction of their dreams. And you can, through listening and maybe being inspired or learning the one tip that is going to help you in your journey to confidence. My business, my coaching is goconfidentlycoaching.com. And one of the biggest things that I have coming up in the fall, which I'm really excited about, because this is the one thing we're going to turn a year old.
Congratulations.
My mastermind is reopening, and it has been an incredible journey to walk alongside these wonderful women who are building a brand, building a business. Some of them have podcasts, and we love to be able to come together and grow together. But more importantly, we have some incredible teachers, masters and experts in their field that come and teach us every other week, and we're learning all the things that we need to for our business. But more importantly, the community keeps you accountable. The community is there to hold you up when you don't feel you can keep going. And again, the mastermind has been very powerful. And last but not least, if anybody is looking to start a podcast, my husband and I have a podcast production company, and we help to support individuals to either launching or growing their podcast. Because a lot of times we love podcasting, but we don't know how it can help us with our business. And that's really what our mission is to help individuals grow in their authority and help them support their business through the message that they have in their podcast. And we teach them how to do that.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this conversation, and for I feel like I'm leaving with the reminder of that it is the small things. It's the small steps, and it's those really focusing on the foundation, the real root solutions of like building this confidence and doing it in a small, tiny way every day. It doesn't have to be some big, enormous thing. It's not something we achieve. It's something we practice. And thank you for that. It was beautiful. And for listeners, I'm curious about what your big takeaway is. So you can hit that send fan mail. I'd love to hear what your takeaway is from listening to Julie. This was beautiful. Thank you so much for your time. Make sure you check out everything Julie's doing. And yeah, thanks, Julie.
Yeah, Carla, thank you so much for hosting and for this wonderful opportunity and for the information and the inspiration that you're bringing to the listeners, because we can't do it alone. And this is why most of us listen to podcasts, to be able to align ourselves with our dreams with the support of the podcast and the information that people are sharing with us. So thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Differently. It's been an honor to share this conversation with you. You know, one of the keys to living fully is to take action when you're inspired to do so. I hope you found that spark of inspiration today. And would you help us spread the word? Did someone you know come to mind while you were listening? If this episode could impact someone you know, please share it and pass it along. New episodes drop weekly, so tap that subscribe button and join us next time as we continue to challenge the status quo and get equipped to live life differently.